Hey there, you're about to watch another wonderful episode of Wild Harvest. Now, of course, I will show you some tricks and some tips for local foraging and the gathering of wild edibles, but the reality is, and the truth is, you must do your own homework. There is no replacement for learning and gaining the experience and knowledge that will give you 100% accuracy on touching and picking and eating the wild edibles. And the only way to do that is to turn to the books, turn to the material online, and most importantly, find a good, experienced, and knowledgeable local forager and take a course with them. Then you'll be confident in your own wild harvest. All right, let's go enjoy some gathering. Just babies. There we go. And they're just covered on that rock over there. There's hundreds of them. I might have to get some bigger boots. You know, forests, deserts, prairies, mountains, jungles, all of these places have a beautiful way of giving to us. But perhaps none of them conjure up such beautiful, poetic language when it comes to gift giving as is the sea. Now the problems I see it, when people go foraging on the shoreline, they go to the obvious, digging for clams, fishing, maybe some kelp or seaweed. The truth of the matter is, here in Southern Oregon, local foraging is nuanced in the tidal zones of the wild harvest. Beautiful. Yeah?
Oh, just breathing this air?
I know. As I like to say, doesn't suck. It's still not lost on me. I think I've just never become jaded about this kind of beauty. I try to celebrate it every moment. And I wanted to bring you here to enjoy it. When people come down to forage on the shoreline, if they're not experienced with it, they forget one major thing, the tide. And I didn't forget it, it's just that in trying to get here on time and the tide's coming in still and it's almost up. That means that everything I'm trying to get is buried under feet of that water, which is pretty intense. The saying goes that when the tide is out, the table is set, which means I'm going to need to wait till tomorrow morning. I think it's around 10 o'clock for low tide.
This is where the ocean meets land. Two different worlds in one space. It's amazing. There is this standoff, the standoff of the power and the energy of the sea and the strong North American continent holding its place. Amazing to be here, amazing to see it, amazing to smell it.
think I can see some small mussels, and they're going to be small right now. They'll get very large, up to 7 inches, but they're really tasty. Oh, here comes the tide. Oh, soaker! God, I didn't want that. So look, this is actually slack tide. That's the hard part about doing this time of year, that even at slack tide, you get these rogue waves that keep coming in. I now have 2 boots full of water, and so does Kevin, I think. Well, that's why I brought the hip waders. Why don't I go make use of them? If you want to enjoy certain wild edibles, the reality is there are some beauty ones that are in deeper water. So, investing in a pair of hip waders, real good idea. It's fun to be able to mix and match sources of protein with the wild vegetables, the wild fruits, the wild starches that are available. And, I mean, come on. We're at the ocean. I couldn't go up to Paul with just plants. Just looking for the choice ones, the ones that are just beautiful sizes. From here, I can see about 3,000. Just doing a little sort of measurement count. Definitely is where a good knife comes in handy, but it's going to need a sharpening. So these little beauties are called bladder rack. And it's a delicious, delicious tree. Thusly named because often as they grow a little older, they develop these bladders on the ends that actually are filled with air, and it keeps them floating. Wow, that's good. Especially the ends. I think that's what I'm going to mention to Paul is those little ends. Tender and delicious. So the ends of the plant attached to the rock are called holdfasts. You do not want to disturb them. You want to leave the plant growing where it is. You just want to get the juicy ends. There we go. Just the tip. There's one other plant that I've spotted that I can get for Paul for tonight's meal. There we go. All right. Well, I hinted to Paul that I had a mustard plant for him. I was stretching that a bit. It's a mustard family, but this is actually a wild radish. And you still have that spicy note when you bite into it. Let me see here. And I want the tender. There it is. Let's get into some identification here. The leaves can definitely be mistaken for a mustard plant. They are lirarely pinnatal. What that means is, I'm throwing science at you now. What that means is these 2 lower lobes here and this one big end lobe. And if you look closely, you can see that they have bristles, not fine hairs. Mustard plants have fine hairs, true mustards. This is wild radish, and it's got bristles. Every part of this plant is pretty much edible. One of the best ways to identify wild edibles is to get proper guides, of course, to get out on a course and learn from someone who can actually pick it and show it to you, and you can touch it, taste it, smell it. That's the best way. But if you are looking, there are certain hints and clues that you can start to land on when you're trying to identify a flower petal. So this one will always have 4 petals, and on the inside, it will always have 6 stamens. And 2 of the stamens are always shorter than the other 4. Now, as I said, you can easily mistake the leaves for a mustard plant. However, you will not be mistaking it for a look-alike toxic plant. And that's what makes this one of the safer species to learn how to identify and then harvest. All right, let's bring Paul home some greens and some of those flowers. All right, time for the reveal. I kept referring to this plant as mustard. It's called wild radish. What you want to go after are the tender parts. Here, take that and scratch and smell it. Scratch and sniff.
It's radish.
Yeah, you can smell the radish, right?
Yeah.
These beautiful little flowers are tasty and edible. I gave you the seed pods just in case. Number 2. Bladder. The choice part of this is this little end bit. Lastly, you knew I was going after mussels for you. Nice, eh? So, with that, I'm going to leave you to your ingredients, as always, to get to know them. And I'll be back. I'm gonna go change. I gotta get out all this wet clothing.
I actually have to be honest, I'm pretty thrilled to have this radish. Many things close to the shore tend to be a little bit salty. The seaweed proves that point, just a little bit salty. So the spice from the radish is helping me hone in on something to balance out the salt of the seaweed. I feel like a little kid right now. Instead of building a sand castle, I'm building a sand fire pit. When I'm cooking dishes, I love to have some of my ingredients ready to go. So when I need them, I know where they are. They're at my fingertips. The French call this mise en place. I call it preparation or pre-preparation. By having this ready, I can add a little bit at a time. I can build the flavors. It gives me that opportunity to taste as I go, to be able to finish the dish. At the very, very end, on the back of my palate, I'm getting this touch of nuttiness. It makes me think of almonds. I'm thinking now, after tasting all of my ingredients, what I'll do is I'll make a little salad. I think there's an opportunity. It's a beautiful little shape. I don't know if I can do anything with them right now. Perhaps if I had a grid to go on top of my fire, I could dry them out a little bit, grind them up. I bet there's flavor locked inside those. Some oil. Some nuts. Now I'm adding seaweed. Those greens are going in just at the very end. Into a bowl, and now I can address the flavor and the dressing. Now this is where acid comes in. I've got a little organic brown rice vinegar. I have some salt. And now let's just see where this all stands. I just tasted one of those pods. Amazing. That is one of the biggest surprises I've had in a long time. The texture was perfect. A little bit of that charcoal ash on there was lovely. They tasted exactly like a roasted, spicy green pea. Fascinating.
Okay, Paulie.
Grab 2 of those.
It's my favorite part of the day, you know this, eh?
What I found was, especially with the walking stick kelp, there was a hint of nut on my palate after trying it raw. So that's what I wanted to capitalize on.
Okay, now what about this slime?
Okay, now that is something that I really, I knew that if I were to blanch the bladder rack was, it released a slime once I got temperature into it. I barely had heat. It was not there at all when it was raw, that ambient temperature. But as soon as I hit a little bit of heat into it, it released this, I don't want to use the words...
Mucus.
There you go, that's better than the one I was thinking. But it's there nonetheless. The way to get rid of that, from what I understand, is blanch in hot water, and then cool in cold water, and that will look after that problem.
Takes away the slime. It's all right. It's lesson learned, right?
So
it's still tasty.
Now, the one thing I wanted to save for the end, now that you've had all those different flavors,
yes,
is these little guys right here.
Right. Wow. That's a unique flavor.
That mustard brush.
All right. You know, the leaf part of the seaweed, well, it's more about what's not there than what's there. I'm not tasting anything that's saying, oh, this tastes like that, or this tastes like this. I'm not getting that. I'm just getting the fact that I'm eating a bit of a thick, leafy green salad ingredient. I'm not getting anything super special out of it. So, try again. So you see, it's not always going to be about him killing it and knocking it out of the park. All right, I'm ready for the next dish.
I'm cleaning what are called beards out of these mussels. I'm using a set of tweezers which make light work of it. I just grab on and pull them. The mussels that won't release the beard easily, I'll separate out and I'll use those ones to make a lovely mussel stock. The next dish that I prepare is going to be just more play on classic cooking technique when it comes to mussels. A bit of heat, a bit of liquid, a bit of steam, hopefully lots of flavor, and serving them in a timely fashion. The thing with mussels is they don't have a lot of mass. So once they're cooked, they cool off really, really fast. Butter, garlic, shallot, mussels, wine, cream, and a lid to help them steam. And goes some kelp.
Wow, this looks great, Paul.
So mussels, in a very classic preparation.
Is there a particular way you want me to eat this?
There is.
Okay.
I want you to get your fingers dirty.
Okay.
So you will have to kind of open up the shell sometimes with your hands, pull out the mussel, exactly like that. The spoon is to gather that sauce at the bottom.
I mean, your sauce is delicious. You're right. That is a tender morsel. And I love the bite size of these. I mean, this is kind of the best size. It's a perfect size for eating. And it just, Big recovery from the seafood salad, my friend. Big recovery. This is delicious.
I drink to that. The thing with cooking mussels is you want the mussel to be open, and at the stage that it opens up, it's still not cooked all the way. Cook it for a couple of minutes longer, but not 10 minutes longer. Just a couple of minutes to make sure it's cooked all the way.
You have to remember when you're harvesting in a public area, and assuming that you've got your permits, if there's permits needed, permission to be on the property, those types of things. But also remember that if everything is all there and lined up, there may be other people harvesting as well. You don't just go in and take them all. You just take what we need, and we have just enough for you and I and Kevin to have a wonderful meal. But you're right, this is a whole new thing for me, the way you've done this, and wow, just delicious. Well done, my friend. This is absolutely a hit out of the park. Beautiful.
For this last course, I really want to bring the experience of this place to my next dish. When I look around me, there's the driftwood, there's sea foam, there's the crashing waves, there's all these different things going on. I have an idea where I can bring all of these components to one dish, applying the lessons that I've learned along the way, and making something that really celebrates this wild harvest. What I've learned about the walking stick kelp is it doesn't have to be small to be delicious. It almost has the texture of a bell pepper, that crispy, sweet, juicy sort of explosion when you bite into a bell pepper. It's got that same resistance to the teeth. Mussels. This dish needs a beautiful broth. I have an idea, a little bit crazy. It's going to involve egg whites. So when I look out at the beach, I see sea foam, and the egg whites, they're my sea foam. Almost cooked, not quite there. Right now I've got the sea foam. Time for me to work on the garnish that represents the land. This wild radish is going to work just perfectly for that. These are the gem of the bladder rack. They're going to help me garnish out this dish as well. Just added the miso paste, and that's going to be one of the flavors that brings this dish all together. I've got all the components for the garnish and the plate. I've got the mussels, I've got the walking stick kelp, I've got my sea foam. I just need to agitate it right into the broth.
I'm sensing the Chef Paul Rogalski plating preparation brilliance. Oh, and it already looks beautiful.
Okay, this plate represents the sea, the ocean on one side, and the land on the other side.
You know, this is one of the things I love about you. We can put it on a plate and eat it. But you made a story. You drew from the story of the ocean and our experience here.
Dump that into the soup. That is the flavor of the land where it meets the sea.
Okay, so this is the wild radish.
That's the wild radish.
And some of the bladder rack.
Dump it in.
And
enjoy.
Oh, thank you, sir. What a display. Oh. It hits your mouth, you get it on your tongue, you start to chew, and you swallow. And each one of those stages, I had a different flavor. I love that journey. This is the moment in time for you and I where Chef Paul just tells the story of our last 48 hours, and you can see it right there. I don't know, is that silly? Is it pretentiously over the top? Oh, some might think so. I don't care. It's about celebrating food. Well, I think you nailed it. I really think you nailed it. Cheers. Thank you very much. You know, gathering from the wilds, local foraging, it's not about get it now before it's gone. Because in fact, when you become familiar with wild edibles, you secure their future because you'll care about them again. So go ahead, get splashed by an ocean wave, get some dirt under your fingernails, and then you'll truly be experiencing the wild harvest.